The health of the environment is a key concern, and that's why organizers of GDC 2019 want to take a quick moment to talk about what's being done to help make it a more sustainable event. In a more sustainable industry, GDC 2019 itself kicks off next week at the Moscone Convention Center in San Francisco and promises a full week of learning, networking, and catching up with your friends and colleagues across the game industry, along with all the great opportunities to meet interesting people and intriguing talks. What you will find at is a trained team of event management professionals who are keen to help you all have a great time. They are also committed to putting on shows that have a positive environmental and social impact on the local community and the industry at large. Above all, GDC is committed to producing sustainable events fueled by insight, innovation, and collaboration. We are proud of our commitment to having a positive environmental and social impact on both the communities and the industries we work within. Without further ado, here's what organizers are doing to improve the sustainability of GDC. Bring your team to GDC. Register a group of 10 or more and save 10% on conference passes. Learn more for more details on GDC 2019 visit the show's official website. Or subscribe to regular updates via Facebook, Twitter, OS, Gamasutra and GDC are sibling organizations under parent company Informa. Over 100 staff at Blizzard Entertainment's core office in Ireland, which houses the company's main European customer service operation, will be leaving by the end of 2018. It's worth noting that these departures are part of a voluntary program, which offers that money to leave Blizzard, and are not mandatory. However, this program has reportedly been offered to the core office multiple times, and the amount of money offered has increased. It was too good to pass up. This is voluntary, do not get me wrong. But when you see a pile of cash in front of you, over and over again, you start to lose hope, and cannot see a great situation ahead. Explained an anonymous source speaking to Eurogamer. They reportedly took the offer, which amounted to a year's pay. The departure of such a large amount of staff has raised concerns over game support for Blizzard titles in the future, especially with the remaining staff having to pick up extra work to cover those who have left. This means people will struggle to get the help they need, and the people that are left in the office are being forced on 2 shifts. They do not like to try and cover this massive loss. Another source told Eurogamer. Blizzard confirmed the voluntary exit offer, but stressed that its staff were not pressured into doing so. The employees who are choosing to leave the company later this month are taking advantage of a voluntary and long-standing program we offer in various locations around the world. The company said in a statement, this program, which has proven popular in the past, gives eligible staff the option to make the most of the incentives, while proactively pursuing other career opportunities. No one is required or encouraged to participate in this program. But for those who do, we work hard to make it generous. The company said the level of customer service offered to European players will remain unchanged, and that there are no plans to close the Cork site. Be sure to read the entire piece over at Eurogamer, which goes into more detail around the voluntary exits. Violence is at the center of most video games, and it is quite understandable as to why. Violence is ingrained into the DNA of some of the most popular genres, from first-person shooters to action-adventures. In many ways, this is what makes Sin Shade, a new open-world adventure game about a traveling painter, feel like somewhat of an oddity. Miss Shade takes the open-world structure of a game like The Elder Scrolls V, Skyrim, or be it on a small scale, and argues that the paintbrush is mightier than the sword, letting players solve problems not with their fists, but with their art. For the project's founder Danny Weinbaum and the rest of Miss Shade Studios, creating a game that eschewed violence in this way for painting proved incredibly challenging. How much freedom do you give players to create their own paintings? And in lieu of action, how do you create a satisfying gameplay loop that is both fun and reinforces the game's central themes through a mixture of trial and error and some clever technical tricks, such as using shader effects to slowly reveal the painting? They arrived at some satisfying solutions to the problems they were having. When it came to making this shade, the world came first. Weinbaum had worked as an environment artist on AAA games, like Sucker Punch Productions, Infamous, Second Son, prior to striking out on his own. So he wanted to make a game that had a sense of place first and foremost. Initially, we just wanted to make a world, he says. That was the main goal. But then we also wanted to, we did not want it to be a straight walking simulator. We really wanted it to have some sort of game loop in there. The team's first attempt at this involved introducing survival mechanics early on in the development. Weinbaum added different status bars for hunger, thirst, and malady. It was hoped that this would provide another layer to the game for players to engage with. But things did not quite go so according to plan. Those were like a train wreck, he explains, because they were totally opposite to what we wanted the player to be doing in the game. It was like we want players to enjoy the world, and take it slow and look at the sights on top to people. But then we were just like making their borders slide down. On account of this, the team started stripping back the survival mechanics to guarantee that players could actually explore at their own pace and smell the flowers. The game does still borrow some elements from survival games here and there. You must collect materials and recipes to craft, and at night staying outdoors too long in the cold without wearing a coat can result in you respawning back at the last bed you slept in. The difference now is that they no longer pose a significant obstruction to the players while out exploring, with individuals able to gather materials fairly easily and sleep in beds or tents to skip till the morning. Around this time, Jacqueline C. Adlow, the co-designer on the project, suggested painting as the central premise of the game. This proved to be a popular idea, and soon the team started to prototype a version of the game. The first time Jacqueline proposed the painting thing, it sounded really hard to me, so I basically took what she said and took all the good stuff out. Laughs Weinbaum. I initially put the paintings in like pickups, so we would have these paintings in the world, and they were like little pickups. This is so embarrassing to even say, and even she at the time was like, that's not painting, that's totally dumb. Do not do that under any circumstances. Having to rethink how painting was incorporated, the team settled upon a screenshot mechanic instead, though this would mean players would have less control over how they could interpret their surroundings. This mechanic would ensure the game was still accessible for even the least talented of painters, allowing individuals to simply stretch the parameters of the canvas on the screen and capture the image held within. Whenever a player paints in the game, the image is serialized into the game's data and appears on screen on a canvas. So, in a basic quest, you'd be given a commission to paint an object out in the world, and would then be required to find that item based on audio and visual cues, kind of like a simple game of I Spy. How it actually works is when you paint it records the time of day and special objects within view, says Weinbaum. So, we mark up special objects that are useful for quest stuff, are just stuff that we think NPCs would like that we could actually type into something in the dialogue that NPCs will say to you. This means that as long as you have captured certain objects or events, you will be able to hand in the quest and receive compensation in the form of the game's currency, glowstones. In much more action-oriented games, there are a lot of common tricks developers use to make mechanics feel good, like screen shake or recoil. Most of these were not applicable to painting, so Weinbaum and his team had to think of other less traditional ways of adding some necessary juice to the mechanic in order to make it feel more satisfying. We knew we had to come up with something that was a little bit cooler than just the thing popping up in front of you.